Hello, world. Welcome back to the channel. We got to talk about it. Boots Ennis versus Karen Chukhadzhian 2. The post-fight thoughts from me. Guys, I must tell you, I must tell you, I must tell you. I know I've been gone for a minute, but I'm definitely making my rounds back into the sport of boxing and definitely will be talking boxing and, of course, calling boxing as well. But, guys, Got to tell you this. I seen the fight tonight between Karen Chukhadzhian and, of course, Jerome Boots Ennis. Um, Very quickly, we got to get into it. I mean, Boots Ennis, he's Boots Ennis at the same time. We also have to call a spade, right? There were some things that Karen Chukhadzhian was doing to offset Jerome Boots Ennis. One, many people believe that Karen Chukhadzhian was just going to run all night and use his legs like he did in the first fight. However, I went back and watched, prior fights to after his first defeat to Jerome Boots Ennis the first time, and I believe that he got a stoppage in one of those fights that he's had recently. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But it was funny for me because I know in the first fight, I know that he trained to move around the ring like that, and I'm stating that because I tell you guys all the time, just don't watch the interviews and just don't watch, what other people are saying. Watch the build up. Sometimes they have these build ups like the 24/7s. You just have to go to, the DAZN or whatever promotion company that's hosting the fight. Sometimes they have those build ups to the fight. And unfortunately, I did go and watch that, and I seen what Karen was training for that fight, and I believe his trainer in one of those episodes was talking about that. And it may not have been the Boots in his fight recently where he spoke about that, but I know during the buildup you could see him training specifically to move around the ring. However, this go around you seen Karen Chukhadzhian, fighting Jerome Boots in his back. He was landing great shots. He started off in the first round with a big left hook that staggered Jerome Boots Ennis. And I believe Jerome Boots Ennis, his takeaway from this fight, me seeing him in the post-fight interview, he looked a little, I'm not going to say distressed, but he looked a little uneasy, a little weary. And he looked embarrassed a little bit. I know many people who went to the fight that said that, when the last round came, a lot of people from Philadelphia, his hometown crowd, was leaving the arena, before the last round and during the last round. And by the time it came to the post-fight interview, you seen that it was empty. Of course, people was looking for the knockout. He did state that he was going to go for the knockout, in which he tried. He did drop Karen Chukhadzhian, but I believe Jerome Boots in his power. I believe that he has power, but I believe is a momentum buildup of power. And what I mean by that is, him throwing Farada punches to lead up to, someone getting stopped or dropped. And as you did see that with Karen Chukhadzhian taking multiple shots, and I think the build up and the momentum of the shots as he was putting those together, eventually had dropped him. Um, and I believe that's where, when he get to those bigger fights that he's looking for, you'll see more of what I'm talking about. It has to be, him putting his punches together. I must state that I remember seeing Jerome Boots in his interview. I believe it was either with Gilly or it was with Wallow, and it was stating something about his defense. And what he said was almost from word to word, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but he did say something about he doesn't get hit that much, and he's never been in a tough fight. Guys, I must say tonight that this was definitely a tough fight. I believe that if he's walking away from this fight, I believe he can look back on this fight, and it made him more assertive. It made him more aware of punches coming at him because his defense, is a little suspect. I do believe he get hit extremely too much by punches that he shouldn't get hit with. I do believe that Jerome Boots Ennis does work on his defense, but as he move up through the ranks to those caliber fighters that he's looking for, those big time payday fights, I know people talked about, him recently wanting to see Crawford and things of that nature. You also heard in the post-fight interview where he wanted to move up to 154. But my thing is this: you move up to 154. You got guys like Fundura, you got guys like Spence, you got Murtazaliev, you got. I mean, it's a ton of guys, Bud, and other people that's there as well. Even a guy like Virgil Ortiz, right? The same punches that he got hit with, those big left hooks, and some of those uppercuts, the overhand rights, those guys can punch. Karen Chukhadzhian, I believe he only has 13 knockouts, if I'm not mistaken. But he does have enough to put you down, but I don't think it was enough to put a guy like Jerome Bruce Ennis down. However, I even seen someone on Twitter, say that Jerome Bruce Ennis has a chance. That's easy to say when you have a guy who's not known as a power puncher, such as Karen Chukhadzhian. But I believe that Jerome Bruce Ennis walked away with this fight being more assertive and more aware, simply because I remember very, very vividly him stating that his defense is superb and he don't get hit much and things of that nature. To where I seen him in his last couple fights, previous fights, get hit abundantly, a lot abundantly, right? So I've seen that from him, but I do give Jerome Bruce, and it's probably a C plus, C minus uh, fight. How I just don't know what um, I just don't know what instructions he could have gotten even more. Because there did look like a sequence in the corner between, father and son, Bozy Ennis and Jerome Bruce Ennis, as to where Jerome Bruce Ennis wanted to do one thing, and Bozy was telling him to do another thing. But then it came a point in time where Bozy was just like, "Man, you got to get him out of there." He was telling Jerome Bruce Ennis to go up underneath and then chop the overhand right or left, depending what stance he was in. And Jerome Bruce Ennis wasn't doing it. He mentioned something about getting in close, going to the body, and his father was like, "He's already tired. You don't need to go to the body. You can box from the outside." And you're smothering your punches. And he went right back out there and wanted to go right back in and fight close. And once again, it looked like he was smothering his punches. I remember talking to Brian Norman Sr., which we talk a lot. And I remember that, it potentially could have been a fight between Brian Norman Jr. and Bruce Ennis. And there were some things that was pointed out to me by watching film from Brian Norman Sr. And I seen those things tonight. Now I'm not going to sit here and mention those things because I don't want it to get out about what he was seeing and what they would want to do for his game planning. But I definitely did see a ton of what Brian Norman Sr. was saying. And some of those things came out. It came to fruition. You see Bruce Ennis, smiling, talking to the crowd, responding to people in the crowd. And of course, it seemed as him and his father wasn't on the same page. So, and he looked embarrassed, and those are some of the things that we talked about specifically between me and Brian Sr. as a fight was potentially trying to get made between Brian Jr. and Jerome Bruce Ennis. Yes, he did put Karen down. Yes, he did put Karen down, but Karen Chukhadzhian should have been out of there. But eventually he was putting those punches together, and he wasn't really capitalizing off of a lot of things that he could have done from a defensive standpoint and from an offensive standpoint. Speaking of Jerome Bruce Ennis. And I know he called these big names out, but I believe that he can probably get the top tier once he clean up some of the things. But for me personally, his post fight interview just didn't seem fitting or well enough to me to feel like he may need to go to 154. It was like almost a sense of uncertainty there from Jerome Bruce Ennis in the post-fight interview. I mean, if you go back and listen to it, listen to everything that was said, and you break it down, he's a little uncertain. There's a little uncertainty there. There is. I must say that. I'm calling a spade a spade. However, I am a fan of Jerome Bruce Ennis as well, and I only want the best for him. But there's a lot of things that he does need to clean up. There's of course, getting hit, hit too much, things of that nature. I know he called the big names out, and he said the big names would bring more out of him. I mean, but what about tonight? You can't overlook a guy like Karen Chukhadzhian, who many people and maybe like a 98% of the world believed that he was going to run. But if you had paid attention to Karen Chukhadzhian and you watched his last couple of fights, or you did your homework necessarily to go back and watch those last couple of fights that he's had, you will know that the first fight, Jerome was Ennis, he was trained to do that. And that's the funny part about it. I was seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's going to be a snooze fest. He's going to run this, and the third." They want to see how real Jerome Bruce Ennis cut off the ring. And it was crazy is I remember talking to Dakari Scott, which is Mac Truck, a heavyweight professional fighter who's also in the stable of Bozy Ennis and Jerome Bruce Ennis up there in Philadelphia as well. And I remember after he fought Karen the first time, I called Mac Truck and I said, "Man, what's the word?" He said, "Man, me and Boots just got out the ring. I was helping him, showing him how to cut off the ring." And I was confident that, if Karen did try it again, Bruce Ennis would definitely, know how to cut off the ring and do more. But this time go around, it almost seemed as if that's what they specifically trained for, was Karen moving and things around the ring. And that was not the case this time. Earlier in the offense, you seen Jerome Bruce Ennis get hit with left hooks and, of course, some right hands. And I can't believe that I saw him get hit with a double right hand, one to the solar plex and one to the chin. I couldn't believe that. And it was almost like Jerome Bruce Ennis had no answer for it for the first couple rounds. Um, yes, Karen Chukhadzhian, he did have some excessive holding where you seen the holding call against him and took the point away and things of that nature. But I believe that there was more that Jerome Bruce Ennis could have done. But you got to give credit to Karen Chukhadzhian because he stuck through it, even when Jerome Bruce Ennis was able to compile a couple shots and put them together, in which he did the first time, but ultimately had dropped Karen Chukhadzhian to a knee. He couldn't get that punch output again. Um, and there was multiple times that I felt that he hurt Karen, but I also was at times where I thought Karen wasn't hurt um, that much to where he would catch Bruce Ennis with a left hook once again. You know, with Karen not having that much power, yes, he has 13 knockouts, but that's really not a lot for the for the top tier guys, right? For the top tier guys that he's fighting, it may not be enough. Um, but you put a guy like Jerome Bruce Ennis and Virgil Ortiz in the ring. I'm not saying that Bruce Ennis would lose, but he would definitely, feel those shots, and he can't get hit with those shots that he got hit with Karen. I mean, when you put him in the ring with anybody at 154, those guys are fighting. Those guys are thumping at 154. So he can't afford to get hit with those punches. But I do give him a C plus, C minus performance. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't his greatest performance at all. It definitely wasn't. But there's some things that he can work on. But I mean, if I'm Jerome Bruce Ennis, I'm not happy with the performance, but there's things that I can go back and learn. Now that I know that I'm human, I can get hit, I can get punched on. There are guys who can, and will take my power, you know. So I have to move different. I mean, I tell people all the time, you're only as good as your next fight. Now, if Jerome Bruce Ennis goes and improve on those things inside his next camp or his next time he's at the gym, he's going to get that much more better. But I do believe that this fight did make him better. I really do. And I think that it made him more assertive and more aware. But overall, I thought the fight was okay. I didn't think it was a bad fight. But I did believe that some of the things that Jerome Bruce Ennis was doing in the ring was bad. And I know he's capable of doing much more. Now, realistically, a lot of the things that me and Brian Noma Sr. talked about that he saw, and I actually went back and looked at it on film myself, it's going to be some questionable fights for Jerome Bruce Ennis going forward. It really is. It's going to be some questionable fights, and it depends on who he's fighting. What's going to be the difference maker? So, because some of those guys can definitely thump, and if it had been a Virgil Ortiz or Brian Noma Jr. or Bud Crawford or Earl Spence in front of him tonight, and got hit with those same shots, Jerome Boots Ennis would definitely have been picking himself up off the canvas. Definitely, without a doubt. But guys, over again, like I said before, I'll be back doing more content. I'm back now. I had a lot of things going on. But with that being said, man, those are my post-fight thoughts. Thought it was an okay fight. Wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either on Jerome Boots in his part. But you got to tip your hat off to Karen Chukhadzhian, who got off the canvas and continued to fight, even though he had the sense of hold'em call. But that's a part of him being very game and seasoned in this, helping him get through that fight, and not getting stopped. So with that being said, man, Drew Ron Boots Ennis just got to get back in the lab. I give him a C plus on his fight, C minus somewhere along in there. And guys, what you think? Tell me what you think in the comment section. What's next for him and what he need to do and work on, and we can go from there. With that being said, I'm out. Love, peace, happiness, and hello.